Hello, thanks for joining me. This is March 2021 and I decided to restore a room in my property. It's an old clay dabbing or cob construction with some brick walls. And in this particular room the plaster had become detached from the wall and it was quite damp. So this is a restoration project to get the lime put back on the wall so that the walls become more porous and can sort of breathe a bit more and make this little room a fit place to live in. It's a bedroom as used at the moment, and it's always been damp, so this is how I set about trying to sort it out. Anyway, hope it's useful. Start doing a little frame here, but what I need to do is cover this up with some plasterboard, and there's a bit of a nasty gap down at the bottom, so I'll need to fix that up. The other thing which is a bit of a problem is that this, I've not been touching it, I can promise you, but this socket, you can see the back box is all but corroded away with the damp. So I'm going to have to resite that electrical outlet at some point. I may need to get an electrician in to help me to do that side of the job, but that's something that I'm going to have to sort out before I get on and do any plastering. So I've chipped off the old lime mortar. I've raked out the joints reasonably and got rid of the loose stuff. I've brushed the wall off, so most of the dirty jobs have been sort of finished. Over here, that wall is completely clay, and the plaster, although it's crazed in places, I think you can maybe see the hairline cracks in there, but when you tap the plaster it's actually reasonably solid. So all I've done is I've removed any areas of plaster that are a bit loose, a bit in that corner there, and there's a bit up the top there, quite a big hole going into the back of the wall there, which I'll have to repair. Over here likewise, down into that corner and around there and up around that other crook rafter. So there's a bit of plaster that's still intact and largely as good as it was when the day it was put on. It is a bit rough. It was previously wallpapered, so I'm glad to have got that wallpaper off. And what I'll do is probably when I come to do the finishing coat of the plaster, I'll put a skim of finishing top coat on that and make it a little bit more presentable. So that's the situation. Right, time to make a mix. So the reason why I've put a load of bricks in here, concrete bricks, they're going straight off the foundations there, so they're as secure as I can get them, and they're flush with the clay wall, so the plaster will go over the top of there. But there's a radiator goes on here, and always we've had real problems getting the brackets to hold in this cob wall. So I've put these here so that when we come to fit the radiator bracket again, you can see how the plumber has gone through a pebble there actually, and that was the only thing that was really holding this
bracket on the wall. Put some big screws in, but it literally just pulled out. So anyway, hopefully that will solve the problem. So I managed to get that little hole filled in. It's just a mix of stone, rubble, bits of brick and that lime mix that I made. So I'm just in the process of dubbing out, which is filling these big cavities with little bits of stone where I can fit them in. So it's just a case of filling some of this lime mortar and plonking it in. See if we can do that. Doesn't have to be too neat. So that's me finished really for today. I've been doing a couple of big mixes, nubbing out. So that's filling in various gaps. For instance, down here, I haven't quite got around to this, but you see there's a big gap around here. So I'm going to need to somehow fill that in a little bit. So that's what I've been doing, filling the gaps around the wall. I managed to do this bit up here. That looks okay. Just spraying the area and then putting these cobbles in as best I can. Same over here where this crook rafter comes out. Just getting that all patched in. And a little bit down there, still got a little bit to finish off there. You can see a couple of little pieces of stone waiting to be cemented in with the lime mortar. This bit of untidy brickwork around the door, I've managed to fix that up. It's looking a bit more respectable now. I've got it all the way up to the ceiling there intact, and down that door edge as well. So that's the old door there. Built that little bit of wall up that was missing. A bit of a gap at the bottom, but I'll think about how I'm going to do that because it's just open space. Anyway, all the way up that corner. So I've just received this pallet with the lime mortar that I'm going to be using for plastering the walls. It's a hot lime from a Cumbrian supplier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mix in a bucket and just put the first coat on like a harl coat. So I'll get on and make that just now. So this is the Harling mix. I've just added some water to the bucket of lime mortar here, and I've added some hair as well. So I can see the little bits of hair sticking out of the mix. It's very, very loose. So I'm going to just give this a try. It's a case of just getting a Harling trowel and throwing it on the wall. I've damped the wall down about half an hour ago. Oh, what a mess. I'm not sure what I make of this. It is sticking to the wall. Not in big clumps though. The whole idea is not to get it in big clumps, so I might just have to improvise. Yeah, it goes everywhere. Anyway, I've pretty much finished that. I didn't realise I'm going to need to do quite a bit more. I'm going to experiment anyway. I'll persevere with it over this section here. You do get a lot of splatter, and it's important to keep this line out of your eyes. Well, as a first attempt, I've kind of got the mortar splattered harl onto this area of very exposed, dry, well, not so much dry now, clay dabbing or cob. I suppose that's what I wanted to achieve. It's a sort of base coat, and it's not a pleasant job by any means. I'm covered now in sort of lime splatter. I've got a bit more wall over here to do, so I'll just get on and get that finished. It seems to be that you have to have quite a bit of water in the mix. If it's too thick, it tends to stay as a clump, and I didn't want that because obviously it's going to just peel off. So it has to be quite a watery mix. And I've added hair to it, so hopefully that will give it a bit of cohesion. So we'll see how we go. Hopefully the next couple of days it will dry off and form a really solid base for the next coat. So, see how it goes. So it's Monday morning, and I did this harl coat on Wednesday last week, and during Thursday and Friday I realised it wasn't really drying very quickly. So I've had some heat on in the room over the weekend and a dehumidifier. I know you shouldn't really use a dehumidifier when you're using lime plaster because of the risk of it shrinking, but it's just a very thin coat, a base coat, and it's stuck quite well onto the clay background. You see a little bit of a damp patch there where I've inserted some concrete bricks in that little section where I'm going to be able to now attach the radiator when I come to that stage. So the next step is to make a mix this morning and get a scratch coat on the sort of base coat, and do that wall and this wall and the wall behind me, which is just brick with all of the plaster removed. So let's get on with that. Well, first things first, I'm going to spray the walls down and then go put a mix on. Just make sure the water soaks into the background a little bit. Seems a bit drastic having spent the last few days drying it all out, but anyway. It's to control suction apparently, so that you don't lose the water out of the mix that you put on immediately. So that's what I'm doing, just spray these bits down. So I've got the mortar mixed. I've kept it as stiff as possible. Apparently the less water you put in it, kind of the better, because it's prone to shrinkage if you put too much water in it. But you need to have it enough water in order for it to flow a bit. So I've wetted it again. So here we go. Let's see how we get on with this. Just try a bit down there. So what I'm doing is I'm just splatting it on basically and filling out the big holes before trowel it over. At this stage I'm not overly bothered about the quality of the finish. I'm just filling it in. So this hotline mortar is already pre-mixed. All I've got to do is add water to it. Because I'm doing the scratch coat, I'm going to add this fibre to it to give it like a bit of strength. Usually it's goat hair or horse hair, but this is artificial stuff. Does the same job though. I'm just going to tease that into the dry mix before I start rolling the thing. Try and fluff it up. A bit of water. See how that looks. So I've got my mix done, and that's what it looks like when it comes out. That's kind of like the consistency that I'm going with at the moment. I think it's loose enough to put on the wall, but not too thin. There's too much moisture in it. Yeah. So there's plenty of hair in it, which is good. Right, we'll get that on the wall.
So having got all the mortar onto the wall and got it squared up reasonably well, I then started to scratch the wall with this particular tool, and I make a diamond pattern with this scratching tool so that it provides a better bond for the coat that goes on next. So that's what I'm doing here, just making sure that the wall's ready then for the next coat to go on. So while that scratch coat was beginning to dry out, I then spent a bit of time preparing the reasonably good plaster that's been on the wall for maybe hundreds of years. I prepared that with this Baumit primer, and that will allow me then to put the final skim coat on, the final plaster coat on, and give it some adhesion, something to stick to. So this is the Baumit primer, and it makes a good job of the wall.
So I'm finding one of the best things for doing this is wearing some latex gloves, and then sort of like these builder's gloves, because the lime is really caustic on your fingers, and although you think you're keeping your fingers clean with wearing gloves, there's quite a lot of lime gets through the material and can cause you quite a lot of your skin, quite a lot of problems, so do be careful. And of course you've got to watch it in your eyes as well, so fortunately wearing glasses, it's keeping the splashes out of my eyes. Not so bad when you're doing this sort of plastering, but when you're doing that kind of first harling coat, if you ever do that, there's quite a lot of splatter about. Right, well that's stage one completed. I've got all the surfaces covered. That wall was quite a challenge, quite a big piece of plastering to do. There's the old doorway, that's a gypsum board there, and I used some of that Baumit to create a primer, and then put the hot lime mix on top of that, and then the wall returns. I got that electrical wire covered with some capping just to protect it, and that's the little corner where the other crook rafter comes out. You'll notice it's all been scored so that the next coat, the base coat, will stick to it. So it's Thursday now. I actually finished this on Tuesday, and already the top parts here are quite dry and reasonably hard, but if you go down to the base of the wall, down here, it's still quite wet, and I can push my finger into it quite a bit. So there's a long way to go yet before this dries out. I think it's because the water gradually migrates downwards from the top of the wall to the bottom, and of course the base of the wall is always a bit damp nearest to ground level. So what I've done is I've put a little plug-in electric radiator in here just to take the chill off the air. Got the windows open, and I'm going to leave it now for a good few days, probably a week at least by the looks of things. As I say, it's drying out at the top, but probably about halfway down it starts to get really wet. So until it's dry, I'm not going to be able to put the next coat on, the base coat. So that's as far as it goes with this video, part one. The next video will be showing how I put the base coat on, and then finishing off with the finer plaster skim coat. Right, well thanks very much for watching part one. We'll have to see whether this turns out to be a DIY success or maybe a DIY disaster. I'm going to be a few days before this all gets dried out before I start mixing any hot lime render mix again. So stay tuned to see what happens in the next video. Please subscribe and hit the like button if you found any value in this video. Any comments, please leave them in the space below, and I'll do what I can to see if I can answer them.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.